Right now with CTA Radio, K-Max Pugs, we got the one and only Chicago's finest, Lupe Fiasco on the line. What's up, man?
What's happening? What's happening? Downtown in the building.
Definitely, man. It's all good. So, I mean, pretty much, I mean, you really don't need an introduction, but you have a storied career. But if you want to give like a quick background of how it all started, well, not all started, but just some highlights of what you've been through as far as an artist.
Well, I started, I just professionally, I got my first record deal while I was still out of high school. Like fresh out of high school, we signed an Epic Records / Raw Dope Records. So like the home of Crucial Conflict and what have you. And that was kind of like my first entrance into the music business with a group called the Pack. We went on, released a single, but that was the first time I kind of got the opportunity to go nationwide, and really experience kind of like the music business, running around doing different shows and different stuff like that. Left, that group kind of, had its time, and I went solo. I got my first solo deal with Arista Records, and it was just that. It was me, as a solo artist now, kind of having a little experience. I was like 19, 20. So still young in the game and kind of going through the motions of that. Started to get a lot of notoriety in the business, coast to coast, state, worldwide, even on sometimes like little mixtapes and features here. Got a few co-signs early in the game from like Jay-Z and Puff and different people. But that, when got close to kind of releasing that album, this was before any album was released, that deal fell through. And had the opportunity to come right back and get signed to Atlantic Records, which is where I'm at now, and put out my first record, Food and Liquor, in '06. Came off that with Grammy nominations and actually won a Grammy for Daydreaming off that album. And then went on to release my second album in '07, which is The Cool. Went gold on that, platinum single, that was Superstar, more Grammy nominations. And here we are now in '11, finna be '11 for the next album, prepping to release the third album, Lasers. Through that whole time, it's been a crazy, roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it's been crazy indeed. I mean, especially with the upcoming album, because at first you're one of the few artists that actually put pressure and had and forced the label to concede to the wishes of yourself and the fans. I mean, I understand it was like 28,000 hits on the little email that went out as far as like a petition to release the Lasers album.
Well, honestly, it wasn't for me, and I'm just doing it to honestly take myself out of it. Is that it wasn't me? I was kind of fighting it on the boardroom, that side, on the business side. I wasn't even kind of bringing the fans anything into it. The fans put themselves in the midst of it. I would see people on the street and they would ask me, "Yo, what's up with the album?" And I was like, "I don't know." Ask Atlantic Records. And they turned around and really asked Atlantic Records. And they put out a petition. And got, I think the final count was like 30,000 plus signatures on it or whatever. And then, got Atlantic to kind of, Atlantic put out a tweet, kind of responding directly to them, which is, album coming soon. And, the fans felt that wasn't good enough. So then they went on to kind of organize and actually execute, actual physical protest, in front of the corporate headquarters in New York City, of Warner Music and Atlantic Records. All on their own. The two guys who organized it were a 17 and 19-year-old from New Jersey. And they built up a website, got city permits, paid for lawyers, and it was just a surreal experience to see, the fans come out in such force, on their own. Really no coaxing for me, and the responses they would get ridiculed in the press, but at the same time kind of applauded in the press. But when they were ridiculed, people would say, why don't you protest, for child hunger? Why don't you protest for homelessness? Why don't you protest for something meaningful? And their responses would be like, well, if you listen to Lupe Fiasco and listen to his music, that's what he does. And that's what we're protesting for, because he's an advocate for everything that you're saying and more. So for the fans to say that and doing their own interviews and what have you, and that's kind of being, they experience was very kind of like crazy. Even for me, for the label was shocked and I was shocked.
Right. I mean, it had to have been a very humbling experience, and also, I mean, as far as when they say people, should fight for hunger, when you climb Mount Kilimanjaro earlier this year, that was with the Summer Expedition, where you
Yeah,
did that for nations that don't have clean drinking water.
yeah.
So
That was actually put together by my man Kenna, and so shout out to my man Kenna. He was the brainchild behind that. And for me, anything that has to do anything with humanitarian, kind of issues, anything where I can lend my support to get a few more eyes on it, or get a few more dollars, put towards it. I jump in, feet first, and these feet, were meant to walk up Kilimanjaro, Mount Kilimanjaro. So that was a real surreal experience, first time in Africa and the whole thing. And for a good cause on top of that. So it was good business.
wow, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, so how do you feel like your music hit your fans and touched them so directly, so personally, that the message that you actually want to resonate actually come through and it's well received?
It just feel like you get that mission accomplished kind of sense, especially with with lasers. Lasers. The whole premise for this next album, which is comes out March 8th, is it was about social activism, social activity. I was doing a little college promo tour, not for music, for this documentary called The People Speak. That was a part of, which was there's a book written by Howard Zinn called The People's History of the United States of America, and it was basically actors and different activists and poets and singers, songwriters, what have you, just speaking excerpts of this book on stage. And we went over and they filmed the documentary, put it on the History Channel, and kind of went out promoting it. The way you would promote a movie, going around different places, doing junkets and interviews and stuff. And along that process, one of the things that Howard Zinn was trying to push out, through his work and through his life, was for people to activate. They were always talking about the lack of social activism that they seen in the '60s with student movements and stuff like that. The responses to the Vietnam War and stuff like that. And he felt like it was kind of a major downfall of society. That people weren't going out. As you can see it now in London, they're protesting because they're raising the tuition.
The tuition, right?
Out there, taking literally pushing the prince, pushing Prince Charles around.
Right. They threw bricks and stuff. They stoned the vehicle, the limo that they were rolling in. And now that's real when you take it to the top, one of the top officials in your country, and you throw stones and bottles, and you let them know that you're very discontent. So.
We feel like, Howard Zinn felt like that's what's missing for right now. He passed, but that was kind of like his thing, his life work was to hopefully reactivate that. And so, I went into that even with the album even more, and even while I was doing that, I was still in the process of making an album. So to see, before the album even come out, and to see, my fans, activated, and going out and protesting and standing in front of a building for 4-5 hours, singing songs and chanting and cursing out Leo Cohn, the same way that, them students were, shaking the Prince's car.
Right.
Leo Cohn came down, the king of kings when it comes to the music business, he come on down with a boombox and you got a female fan out there just going at him, just hitting them with it. I was like, oh man, this is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy because, there's a lot of activism, but they say because here in this country, we're the number one we're the marketing capital of the world. I mean, we could have tequila that's not even made from real agave plants from agave farmers, and it get marketed to us as top shelf tequila here, meaning that everything is just marketing until we're subdued with PS3s and Xbox 360s and Kinetics and Wii Fits and Wii's and get this, get that, G-Shocks. But then a lot of stuff been going on abroad. I remember several years ago, about 3 years ago, in France, in the countryside, in parts of Paris, the Arab teens were getting mistreated by society and the cops. So they rallied together where they burnt most of the countryside and some part of the outskirts of some cities. But then they went in, Parliament or whatever the government, French government is in that area, went in and made new laws to make it pretty much unlawful to discriminate against them in the manner in which they were discriminated against. So it's like that, and the kids in Greece with the cops. Even 1 year after it happened, they still did riots for the kid. The kid was shot in September 2009, and September of this year on the anniversary, they just kicked it off just to let them know we didn't forget.
Right, the way we forgot. But you know, action brings about action. You know, talk just brings about talk. You know, that's the simple kind of exchange right there. If you want to, we can talk it out to our voices is hoarse, and they're gonna talk right back to us. But if you act, you know what I'm saying, people have to respond with a certain level of action. You know, a certain level of seriousness to the situation. Because if you don't take the situation serious, they ain't gonna take the situation serious. And they definitely don't take your situation serious. No matter what, how dire it is, you can be on death's door. You know, as you can see in Chicago, we're super duper violent.
Right.
But there's still a certain level of inaction, you know, on the part of the community, you know, as well as the powers that be. You know, so unless we really take it serious and push the agenda forward in a very powerful, you know, numbers kind of way, you know, bodies on the street, you know, feet to the pavement, you know, we're gonna be caught in that same kind of cycle. So for me, that was all that energy and everything that we're talking about, and you know, that social activism and the whole thing is what's in this album, you know, for me, which is different from the cool and food and liquor.
With this album, what's like the most poignant song really getting the theme of Lasers to the people?
It's actually the next single. You know, the show goes on, which is the single now. Was more like it was the key to get the album out. You know, that was like the label, that was the record that the label wanted me to do, and you know, do this record. You know, just that was the point of contention. You know, for the album was them having that song first. You know, and it's cool. I rock with it. You know, a lot of people like it. I like it, but the next single, you know, is what Lasers is about, and it's a song called Words, or Words I Never Said, produced by Alex the Kid, and it's probably the most controversial record I've ever done. Really, and I've done some pretty controversial records, but this is probably gonna take the cake. Banned from radio, I just foresee banned from radio station, ticket signs, the whole kind of situation. You know, because it's the truth.
Well, you know, you gotta shoot it out to us at HBK, because we'll blast it out locally and worldwide. No questions asked. Definitely.
Well, I appreciate it, but that record, you know, if you don't listen to nothing else on Lasers, you know, if you get the rest of the album, you're like, this is whack or that's whack, whatever, you know, or if you love every song, you know, Words is the point of Lasers. You know, that's this next song is you know, the whole meaning and the whole corpus, you know, the summarization of the whole body of work and the whole, you know, whole process, you know, just kind of out there, you know, straight raw. So, you know, that's going to be, if you don't hear any other, and that's why we kind of wanted to be the next single, because it speaks for the entire album. You know,
definitely. I can't wait to hear that, because, I mean, people are still, you know, they still contend over I'm beaming. I mean, in that song, you tell kids, you know, they want to leave, and you encourage them and don't come back until you learn something. I mean, it's crazy because you have grown people living in urban areas and in towns that haven't seen. I mean, like you say, yeah, where'd you get those shoes from? Oh, I got them from the Adidas store downtown. There's an Adidas store downtown?
Oh, there's a downtown?
Right. I mean, like, and you just look up. I mean, you can look out your window and see the Sears Tower, never the Willis, the Sears Tower. And you can see that John Hancock building. And I'm like, what do you think all those buildings are? I mean, I don't get it. Like, I really don't understand it. Where do you think the Bears play at? You think they're just on TV and they're somewhere out there?
But now, you know, you're going to threaten the listeners.
It's that line, you know what I'm saying? That was one of the inspirations for me, you know, to want to get out and see the world, you know, and get out. You know, I guess it was the reverse for me, was I wanted to go downtown. You know, that was the inspiration for me. And honestly, I had a father, you know, who would take me downtown. You know, my pops actually worked at Northwestern. So, you know, he would go to work and take me to work with him. So I would be down there and see it. And it's really that, you know, that the opportunities, you know, for the access. You know what I'm saying? If there's no opportunity for a kid growing up to actually be able to go down there and see that and have a reason, you know, or have no reason, but just don't have anybody to take them, you know, so they're in a position where they don't have that bigger brother figure, or they don't have that father figure, or even that mother figure, you know, that wants them or encourages them to go see the world, on the west side of Chicago, you know, it was like I would see the Sears Tower, knew it exists, and want to go there because I wanted out of the hood. You know, I look around and see abandoned buildings and vacant lots and, you know, prostitutes, crack pipes, and shootings, gangs, and the whole thing. You know, kids don't want to live in that, but if they don't have the access to get out or the opportunities to get out, you know, that's their life.
So speaking of you know, the youth and everything, the other groups, the offshoot projects such as Child Rebel Soldier, CRS. What's up with that?
Well, it was kind of like a novelty group, you know what I'm saying, between myself, Kanye West, and Pharrell Williams. And it was really just kind of like a good idea, you know, a running good idea. You know what I'm saying? Like we brought a few songs into reality, you know, but to actually make it a great reality, you know, scheduling. You know, Kanye put out album, I'll put out album, any artists put out album, they finna go on tour, then I'm finna go on tour. You know, it's just that kind of mismatch in the schedule. You know, especially with us. You know, it's different if it was maybe you know, me and B.O.B. and somebody else trying to do it, but you know, dealing with the level of you know, the level of celebrity between those two guys and, you know, the little bit of pull that I got. You know, it becomes a nightmare to get us all in the studio at the same time, but we try to put it together. You know, it's a good thing, so we'll see.
The Japanese cartoon?
Yeah,
my punk band, Japanese Cartoon, put out our first record, you know, this summer past, in the Jaws of the Lord's Death. You can get it for free at allsabotage.com, download it. And we're working, you know, starting the process now to hopefully have our second album out this summer, you know, this coming summer. So we're working on that, you know, at a feverish pace to kind of follow up the first one. We got a lot of good response from it, you know, and it was really just kind of that wanting to do a different kind of music, you know, and express a different kind of sentiment and different kind of tone and what have you. So there'll be more Japanese cartoon stuff in the years to come, God willing.
I gotta give it to you, man. I really like the monikers of the group, like Child Rebel Soldiers, Japanese Cartoon, and All City Chess Club. What about All City Chess Club?
All City Chess Club is less of a group and more of like a union. You know what I'm saying? Almost like a labor union. Where, you know, I felt like, and it happened on accident. You know, I just happened to be in LA and just so happened to be, you know, going to a show, and Charles Hamilton just so happened to be there, and the Cool Kids were performing, and B.O.B. just so happened to be there, and it kind of just snowballed into this thing. It's like, yo, we need to just kind of take these happenstance moments, you know, and really, you know, take all of us like-minded kind of MCs, the new age of dudes and what have you, and just, you know, start our own little thing, you know, not necessarily trying to be the new Wu-Tang, more so trying to be the new Native Tongues, I guess, if that's anything, just kind of taking all the people of this age, you know, who have a like mind, kind of getting together in some type of loose organization. You know, it might be another song, you know, if it's not another song that come out with all of us on it, you know what I'm saying, it'll be, you know, a few of us on this song, or maybe, you know, a few of us to jump on this tour, or maybe we'll get together and do a charity event or maybe something like that. So, you know, just kind of trying to show solidarity, you know, of the new guys coming up in the business.
Well, all right, you mentioned tours with all the groups that you would like to do, but for instance, with CRS, do you actually need a tour? I mean, I believe if you say like Lupe, Pharrell, Kanye all on one joint, and I mean, come on, with the individual successes that you all have had respectively as artists, I think it'll be a blockbuster. I mean, and just a response for the two known songs, and the remix of Everybody Knows. I mean, just those three, the Don't Stop that came out on Good Friday recently, those three joints alone, I mean, build up a whole lot of excitement. I believe you should just throw out an EP and just see what happens with it.
You know, even getting that together is, man, you talking about 6 months.
Wow.
That's still 6 months in the making, you know. You know, we all had the opportunity to be on the Glow in the Dark tour together a couple of years ago.
Right.
And that was kind of the whole chatter. But it's like, you know, we all went in the studio in Virginia, you know, and where we had that one stop and tried to put together a few songs. So there's still some loose kind of ideas and stuff floating around, but it's just putting it all together, you know, is what the kind of headache is, because everybody's off in their own creative kind of space, you know. So it's really when we get the opportunity, to come together. And then at the same time too, we want to keep the level of the music up. You know what I'm saying? So, but we'll see. You know, CRS is like I said, it's kind of like it's a good idea. You know, but bringing it to fruition is a whole other ball of wax.
Just in out of curiosity, does the Child Rebel Soldier have anything to do with the conflict that a lot of children, for instance, in conflict diamond areas go through, where you know you have kids like 8 to 13 with machine guns and AK-47s, you know, fighting off, you know, just fighting for diamond off people that are predators on the children and families that break them up. Like, where did that name come from?
It came from Pharrell, and it was directly related to that.
Oh.
And it was the inspiration came directly from that. Where it was once about, you know, everything we do it in triplicate. You know what I'm saying? So it has to have a triple or quadruple or double meaning. It just has to have more meaning than just its face value. And so, you know, the Child Rebel Soldier was more so about him, you know, expressing like, you got these kids who are they're children at first, you know, but at the same time too, they are so just violent and so just kind of, you know, merciless. And at the same time too, it was the situations that got them to there and bringing awareness to it, but doing it in kind of an artsy way, you know, which is kind of Pharrell's kind of way. You know, he likes to, you know, express very, and even Kanye express very kind of, and myself as well, to express very kind of complex, complicated, you know, ideas and bring awareness to really serious problems, but in a very artistic way. You know what I'm saying? So just the name Child Rebel Soldier alone, you know, just activates people to think about. You go direct to Sierra Leone, you know, or you go direct to Uganda, you know, you go direct to you go to some places in South America. You know what I'm saying? Where's that ideology of like the child soldier, and it immediately gets you to thinking about what caused that, why is that there? But honestly, the reason why he really did it was because, you know, there was a picture of this kid wearing a wig and a dress, you know, with lipstick on. But it was like, dude was so dangerous. You know, he was so sure and confident in his ability to just be a murderous, dangerous kind of dude that he dressed up as a woman.
Wow.
Dared you to point him out on it.
Oh, that is tough. That's true gangster.
Now, backing up to the next single, and is your view right now to really make hip hop dangerous again, in the sense of, you know, things getting banned? Because I mean, at this point, you can say any lewd thing, you know, people will just roll with it.
Right.
To make people think, you feel that's like a more dangerous thing?
Well, I think the truth is dangerous, you know, because you get a lot of pornographic, shocking, you know, kind of imagery and shocking things that come out in hip hop. But if you look at the dudes who are really telling the truth, they're banned, you know, or they're so ostracized and so put to the left. You know, I think I'm trying to be like Immortal Technique. You know,
right.
That's what I'm trying to emulate. You know, I'm in a commercial space and I'm taking cues from him. You know, because he can talk about the struggle and the solution 16 different ways, and he got the history lesson on it, and he can go blow for blow for anybody. You know, but it's just that, you know, people might not necessarily give him the time or the opportunity to do so, but they'll give Lupe Fiasco the time all day in the world. You know, so it's really about just telling the truth. I'm not saying, and I brought Immortal Technique up to say, I'm not saying anything different from anybody else. You know, I just occupy a particular space at this particular moment in time, and I got a particular set of ideas and a particular set of knowledges and truths, you know, that I can communicate at this moment in time. You know, and it just so happened to be, when I say it, it's going to be, oh my God, you know, we let the cat out the bag. You know, how did this guy sneak past? You know.
Now, you know, you're from the West Side, and you know, you grew up with what everybody else grew up with. What point, as an artist, did your ideas start to change to speak more to the people?
I always spoke to the people. It was just that, you know, when I was in the hood, I wanted to entertain my friends who was in the hood. So we rapped about what was going on in the hood. You know, so I was still speaking to the people in the hood, but it was less about, you know, it was less about giving. I wasn't saying anything new to them. You know, I was saying things that we all could relate to. You know, which so happened to be the negative things and what have you. And it's when I started to kind of step outside that comfort zone and talk about different different things, you know, explicitly different things, and play with different ideals that were foreign, you know, to the hood, you know, and even in some instances foreign to myself. When I started to speak about that is when my audience started to open up, you know, and I started to see that, you know, it was a whole other section, you know, of people who related to this, and a whole other section of people who related to that. And what I started to see that it was more similarity than it was difference, because those same things that I was thinking that the dudes in the hood wouldn't rock with, you know, they rock with, you know, kick push fans, you know what I'm saying? It was like, here's a song about skateboarding that dudes in the hood was taking, rocking with, you know, for whatever reason. The beat was dope, or they, you know, story or what have you. But then they was flipping it on some. Now he talking about selling weight, you know. So they moved it on their own.
Right.
You know, they flipped it, interpreted it, you know, their own kind of thing, you know. So, but at the end of the day, it's a song about skateboard, you know. And so now, you know, it brought out them dudes in the hood. It was like, yeah, we rocking that.
Yeah, just like you flipped on BMF, which is actually a moniker for a Black Mafia family that people don't know. And aside from Hoover, the other guy, Big Meech, was a real person that Rick Ross is talking. People just think Rick Ross is making songs, but he's really mentioning real people and real factions that exist or existed. So like you flipped BMF and you said so many things as far as like, what if the grocery stores closed? How would you eat? And people that's not thinking lean as far as like, even with their health. You talked about the obesity. You touched on a lot of things, and you flipped the total meaning of that whole record. And we got a lot of requests for that song, especially when it first hit.
Oh man, please play it again and again and again and again. You know, that's what I like to do. I come in and I like to usurp what's there and change it, you know, just a little bit, but just changing it and a little bit, change it in the radical, changes it completely. You know what I'm saying? Like, not trying to come in and do too much, but just that little bit of kind of rephrase it this. And I also thought that the song was dangerous. You know, I thought the original BMF was a dangerous record. I like the record. You know, I know who Big Meech is. I know who it is. I know who all these dudes is. But, you know, for me, I didn't want a 6-year-old repeating that, because he don't know who is. He don't know who Meech is. And I would even go as far as to say, I bet you Meech wouldn't even want a 6-year-old saying that he want to be like Big Meech. Big Meech doing 30 years.
Yeah, he is. I mean, the whole Black Mafia family is pretty much either federally indicted right now or locked up.
So I felt like I would rather have a kid repeating this, that he want to be like Malcolm X, that he want to be like
Luther,
you know, Fela Kuti, that he want to be like Martin Luther King, that he want aspirations above and beyond. Because at the end of the day, that's who Meech aspires to be like. Even in everything that he does, and Larry Hoover and all of us, we all aspire to those pinnacles in our community, you know, that supersede us, that fought for us to get where we are today, you know, or that stood as pillars to us today. So it's like, you know, let's challenge the kids to be bigger than that, because it's easy to be a drug dealer, it's easy to be a killer, you know, it's easy to be these things. Let's challenge, you know, the kids to be something bigger than that, be something beyond that. And it's crazy because at the end of the day, that's what the drug dealers want to be like. You know,
the irony of sorts.
You know, yeah, you know. So it is what it is.
Definitely.
Well, I thought they waving me out the phone, big homie.
Oh yeah, we getting so wrapped up.
I'm going to plug for the album so we can just wrap it out with that then.
Okay. Well, it's, you know, the album, Lasers, you know, stands for Love Always Shines Every Time, Remember to Smile. You know, it's the people's album. The people demanded it. The people got the release date, you know. So it's the people's album. Drops March 8th, 2011. The single Show Goes On. It's on iTunes right now. You know, download that, request that. You can hit me up on lupefiasco.com. You can check out the Lasers Manifesto at wearenotLosers.com. You know, you can follow me, you know, on Twitter at Lupe Fiasco.
There you have it. I mean, definitely appreciate you taking out the time.
I appreciate it, brothers. Much love, and you know, anytime that there's some Chicago solidarity going on, you know, I need to be in it, knee deep, showing love. So
yeah, and also shout out to you for showing solidarity with Rhyme Fest at his fundraiser. That was big at the Shrine.
Yeah, we got to get Willie up out of there, man. Get some hip hop over there in 20 Ward.
Yeah, definitely some inspiration for real.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking the time out. CTA Radio. just always keep us in mind. We got your back as far as the records, especially looking forward to
Appreciate
that
y'all.
word. All right, man. So have a good one and much success in the future.